So let's think about how we might prioritise all those fantastic ideas that your church has come up with after you've done your community audit and after you've done those appreciative conversations. You might have found through the conversations that you had that there are three main strengths to your church and what it offers. So here, let's just assume then that your strengths from the conversations you've had are social, caring and safe space. So by safe space, I mean that people can come to your church as themselves. It doesn't matter the role that they play. They are no longer a carer. They are no longer a mother. They are no longer someone suffering from cancer. They are just people, and they can come to your church knowing that the label that society has given them no longer matters. It doesn't apply. It's just them. You'd be surprised how important that is. The second one here, caring, meaning, well, perhaps people really appreciate the fact that you care about people in that you ask how they are when they tip up, not where they've been, but how are they? No need to lay a guilt trip on people who might not have been to church for a few weeks. Or maybe when someone has been missing from your coffee morning for a few weeks, you might pop round and find out how they are, take them flowers if they're ill, that sort of thing. So it's not just around how you care for your congregation, but for your wider community. Maybe one of the groups that hires one of your rooms stops hiring. Well, is there a problem with them? Can you help them in any way? And maybe you've asked people, and okay, so there's nothing that you can do, but the point is that you've asked. You cared enough to notice when somebody was absent. And the last one is social. Now, a lot of churches think they're really good at this, and no church says they're rubbish at welcome. But the thing that I'm saying here is, for example, you might think you run a really good coffee morning, but actually it's not about the coffee morning, because you found through your appreciative conversations that people don't actually like your coffee morning. The biscuits are cheap old bourbon biscuits and custard creams, and the coffee is rubbish. What they're coming for is one another. It's a place where it's warm, it's cosy, they can meet their friends, they can sit and chat. It doesn't matter how long they sit at the table. Widowers and widows can come and get some company. The newly bereaved can come and just forget, and they can just sit and have a brew with people who look after them, care for them, talk to them. So that's what I mean by social. So let's have a closer look at one of these ideas, social. Now this is kind of like the fun part. So this is where you think about ideas. Now some ideas may well have come out of the appreciative conversations, given that one of the questions is around what do people think you could do better, or what might improve what you do already. So remember to include any ideas that come out of the conversations that you have with people, whether you like them or not, because that's not the point, whether you like them or not. Given this is about serving your older community, it's about their needs, not your wishes. So here's three main ideas that people came up with. The first one, a better cafe. So we've already talked about the fact that people don't like your coffee and don't like your biscuits. So for them to have a better social time, a better cafe, better facilities would really be the icing on the cake for them. No pun intended. Or maybe it was. Anywho, the second one, games time. That might be around, it might be board games, or it might be things like boule or pétanque or croquet, some kind of outdoor game like that. You might come up with those ideas, or people that you speak to in your appreciative conversations might have mentioned that. Maybe they used to play bowls but can't get to the bowling club anymore, and you've got a great big garden they could use. You see where I'm coming from? And the third one, singles club. That might sound daft when you're talking about third and fourth age, but don't assume that people who are above retirement age or in the fourth age don't want company or don't want love and don't want a companion. And it's not either always about dating per se. It might be, don't assume that it isn't, but it may well be that people just want to spend time with one another, people of the opposite sex, or just go somewhere where they can make friends. And it's not easy. You may well have noticed yourself that older you get, the harder it is to make new friends or go to places where you might meet new friends, make new friends, that sort of thing. So these were the 3 ideas. Notice these are all to do with social, and the social goes right back to your conversations and the community audit. So you link the process all the way through. Okay, so these are really good ideas, but given that you've got 3 strengths with the safe space, the caring and the social, maybe there are 3 or 4 ideas that crop up under each of those headings. So that could mean a potential 9, 10 ideas, maybe more than that if people are particularly fruitful. You cannot do them all. So how on earth do you prioritise? Okay, well, first of all, you think about the resources that each one of these needs. It's really important. This is not the time where you start thinking, nah, singles club, that won't work. What you have to do first is think about resourcing, because it's the resourcing that will help you weed out what's possible and what's not. Also remember that this is not an add-on to what you are already doing. This gives you an opportunity to think about what you might ditch to do this, not to do this as well. So let's have a look at how we prioritise these ideas first through talking about resources. Okay, so when we're talking about resources, you need to think about absolutely everything that you need to make an idea happen. It could even be something as simple as a photocopier. Well, you're going to need some funds for starters, so you might have to think about funding streams. Good cookies. Nobody goes to Costa for rubbish biscuits, do they? It's them their big squashy cookies that they do with chocolate bits in. That's what you go to a cafe for. So this is what you're trying to do. A proper coffee machine. Forget the instant. Instant's horrible. Well, yes, okay, I'm a coffee snob, but instant is still horrible. You don't go to Costa for instant. You go for barista coffee. But you can get that by a good coffee machine. So think about that, a proper coffee machine. And maybe use tea leaves instead of tea bags if you're making tea, for example. Or what about really smart tea bags like Tea Pigs? For other brands are available, of course, but really nice tea and lots of fruit teas, for example. So those are things that you might want to put on here as well. Different kinds of fruit teas for people who can't have caffeine. And maybe if you're giving cookies, well, what is there that's gluten-free or vegan, for example, depending on your clientele. And you can always ask them, remember. No harm in asking. Cake. Everybody likes cake. Volunteers. Now, yes, all churches are up to their ears in how do we volunteer, go get volunteers. We're all aging or we're all busy. Well, okay, what about talking to the scouts then, for example? They might be really chuffed to come and help out on Saturday mornings, say, if that helps them get their badges, or if part of the proceeds goes to their coffers as well. There's a little bit of back scratching for you straight away. And decent furniture. Who in their right minds sits on a Sunday morning thinking, oh, these chairs are proper comfy, aren't they? I could listen to this preacher all day on a chair like this. Let's have it in the cafe as well. Really? Maybe you need different chairs, comfy chairs, squashy chairs, chairs that are really easy for older people to get out of. Maybe your chairs don't have arms. Maybe you might think that older people need arms so they can push themselves up, for example. These are the kinds of things you need to think about. And a chair that's good in a church is not necessarily good in a cafe. So if you do that, then of course you're going to need storage. You see what I mean now? Just in having one thing, a better cafe, you have to think about all these resources that you might need to make that happen. Now you can see that they're kind of all possible when you've thought about all the resources. Now you've kind of like future-proofed your idea because you know what you need to make it happen. But now you need to decide which one. So we only want to do one of these. If you've got 3 strengths, say, you need maybe one idea from each to go forward. That's 3 ideas for you to go ahead with in your mission plan with older people. So let's have a look at how you might do that. Okay, sticky dots. Sticky dots are your friend. So you will use these to decide which of these ideas that you're going to go ahead with. So look, just under social, you have 3 ideas to go for. What you do then, assuming that you've got a room of people, you give them 3 dots and you ask them to put the dot on the one that they like the most. They can either put all 3 dots on one idea if they want. If they really like the idea of the singles club, they can put all 3 dots there. Or if they like them all, 1 dot on each. Or maybe they might really like the games time, but they quite like the singles club too. So they might put 2 dots on there and 1 on here. That's okay. It's entirely up to them how they spend their dots, but they've only got 3, so it's up to them how they use it. It's entirely up to them. Then you count up how many dots you have on each. So let's do some voting. Here's the first dot going onto singles club. Well, so there we have it. The people have spoken. Look at this. You've got just a few on the singles club, quite a lot on the games time, but here you have a clear winner. So particularly under this strength, this idea, the better cafe, is the one that you carry forward. Depending on how many ideas are put forward from other strengths, remember you've got 3 in this scenario, maybe there were only 1 clear winner from the safe space and maybe none from the caring. So you could, if you wanted to, take this one as well because it's so close. But that's what you have to decide. When you look at where all the dots are sitting, you take the top 4 winners, if you like, wherever they are from. So let's assume that these are the top 2 winners out of all the ideas that you've come out with. You can see that they've all been resourced. These are the ones people want to go forward. So you have buy-in from your church, more likely for it to go forward and work well. But it doesn't just finish there because we have to think about, okay, now we need to make it happen. How are we going to do that? Don't just leave it like this because it'll just die in the water. Don't want that, do we, after all your work? Let's have a look at what happens next. And how are we going to make it happen? Aha, that is for another day. So, because I'm the cruelie that I am, you'll either need to come on our next webinar or, even better, come to our day of training. I'll show you how. Bye.